Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Canadian Passive Investing Show. I'm your host, Ava Benesocky, and I'm joined by my co-host, August Biniaz. We have another great show for you today. Please like and subscribe as it helps us build our channel and allows us to keep bringing you great content and expert guest speakers. So our mission is to empower investors to create financial and time freedom through passive real estate investing. So today, you guys, we are joined by Garrett Sutton. Garrett is the owner and operator of Corporate Direct and Sutton Law Center, which since 1988 has provided clients from around the world with asset protection, corporate formation, and maintenance services. Robert Kiyosaki, the best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, calls Garrett and Corporate Direct the premier source for asset protection strategies. We believe this interview will bring tremendous value to active or passive real estate investors. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome Garrett.
Welcome, Garrett.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with both of you today.
Thank you so much. Now, Garrett, you are an attorney, an author, an educator, and a Rich Dad advisor. We are truly honored to have you on our show and believe you will add immense value to our viewers. Why don't you start off by telling our viewers a bit about your background, as I assume you started as an attorney before getting into real estate, and at what point did your interest and focus begin on real estate?
Well, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I went to the University of California at Berkeley. Robert Kiyosaki really likes Berkeley. He has a few things to say about that school. But anyway, I went across the bay to San Francisco to Hastings College of the Law, which is the University of California's law school in San Francisco. And I always liked corporate law. And so I passed the bar exam and started practicing corporate law. And then in 1989, I moved up to the great state of Nevada. And it's a great state to set up entities, corporations, limited partnerships, LLCs. And I've practiced law here since 1989. And we started Corporate Direct to help real estate investors and business owners be able to set up corporations and LLCs for asset protection. Along the way, I became involved in investing in real estate for my own account, and that has been incredibly rewarding. I'm so glad that at 20 years ago, I started investing in real estate because it has been just a great thing for my family and myself. So that's basically it. I work with Robert Kiyosaki and the rest of the Rich Dad team. We travel around the world, at least we used to, talking about financial education. And, that's a topic that everyone around the world is interested in. We've done a number of events up in Canada. One of the best ones was up in Banff, where it was during the winter. So I got to ski at Sunshine Village. So I've had some great times with Robert and the team up in Canada. And it's just been really enjoyable to be able to write the books and communicate this information to people so that they too can take steps to improve their financial well-being.
Incredible. And one key takeaway that I take from that is you saying that you invest in real estate as well. Whenever you're dealing with a consultant or advisor, it's important that they understand the business you're in. So if you have a lawyer who invests in real estate, that makes the process a lot easier. And I got to make a quick admission here is that 3 years ago when I started, being involved in real estate private equity, currently we're, CPI is focused in the US, but 3 years ago I was leaving my business as a developer, as a builder, and I was educating myself in the space of real estate private equity and raising capital and the legal structures. And I stumbled on your videos on YouTube, and they brought immense value and knowledge to me. So I want to kind of jump in and appreciate for those videos and the content you've created. So thank you.
Well, thank you, August. I appreciate that.
So Garrett, why don't we start by talking about the benefits of incorporating? So many times people have difficulty understanding ownership. Now they believe that if they own something, then they are free and clear, that the property is owned by them. But many times owning real estate through a corporation makes much more sense, especially when it comes to liability and legal protection. So Garrett, maybe please begin by telling us the benefits of incorporating for real estate investing purposes, please?
Sure. Well, if you take title, Ava, in your individual name and a tenant sues, they have a claim against you. That's who they rented the property from. And yes, you're going to have insurance, but we all know that insurance companies have an economic incentive to not cover every claim, right? So you'll have an insurance policy, but there's a chance that the insurance company may not cover you. And so we want a second line of defense. And that is, in the United States, an LLC, a limited liability company. Other countries, a corporation provides the same service, but in the US, the LLC is the best entity, or the limited partnership, and we can talk further about that. The LLC or the LP is the best way to protect yourself. Now, people will say, well, I've set up my LLC, I'm finished. No, you've got to transfer title from your individual name into the name of the LLC. That's a very important second step that you have to make. And some people in the US are worried, well, the bank is going to call the note. There's a due on sale clause. But here's the issue. You haven't sold the property. You've just transferred it from you to your LLC. There's no sale there. So we always recommend that you just, don't tell the bank. If they question it, you ask for forgiveness, but you don't ask for permission. You just transfer title from your name into the name of the LLC. Make sure the insurance is in the name of the LLC, because again, the insurance companies will say, well, geez, I thought we were insuring Ava. We didn't know we were insuring her LLC, and they'll use that as an excuse not to cover you. So, with these simple steps, if you do them right, the LLC gives you a great deal of asset protection. That tenant who sues now has to sue the LLC. They're not dealing with Ava as an individual. They're dealing with her LLC. And they have the ability to sue the LLC, but they can't get beyond the boundaries of the LLC to get at Ava's personal assets. And that's what we want, is that asset protection.
Okay, great. Now that leads us into, why don't we discuss real estate private equity, the space of raising private capital to acquire large assets. So Garrett, maybe please explain, what are limited partnerships and LLCs, and why are they the common legal entity used by real estate investors to syndicate projects? And maybe we could start off with limited partnerships first, and then we'll move on to the LLCs, please.
Okay. Well, the limited partnership has been around for a long time. The LLCs in the US only started in 1977, but the limited partnerships were used in England to send people on voyages around the world, in the 15 and 1600s. So the limited partnerships have been around for a while. The idea behind the limited partnership is that a group comes together, they invest their assets, and if things go wrong, their losses are limited to what they put in. All right. Their other assets are not exposed. If you invest $50,000 into a limited partnership and things go bad, your loss is limited to that $50,000. They can't go after your house or your other assets. Now, one of the requirements of the limited partnership is that you have two types of partners. One is the limited partner, who, as we mentioned, their risk is limited. The general partner, it runs the whole show. They are in charge of the investment. And the general partner does have unlimited liability. So we don't want that. And what we have to do to protect the general partner is to set up a second entity, be it a corporation or an LLC, to act as the general partner. And so with a limited partnership, we have to set up two entities, the general partner entity and the limited partnership. But it's a good way to go. And with a limited partnership, you can have the general partner has 2% ownership, and the limiteds have 98% ownership. And the limiteds can't really tell the general partner how to run the show. They're limited in their activities. So that gives the general partner a lot of control. And in family planning situations, limited partnerships can be great because, mom and dad can have as little as 2%, and the kids may want to sell the duplex that's in the limited partnership so they can start the band up and go on the road again. And the parents can say, no, you can't sell that asset. We're the general partners. We make all the decisions. Now, by contrast, the LLC, the limited liability company, you only need one entity, right? We set up the LLC. Within the LLC, we have someone who manages the LLC, but we don't need what's called the general partner like we do in an LP. So in the US, a lot of people are using LLCs because they only need to set up one entity. And the laws in the premier states for asset protection, Nevada, Delaware, and Wyoming, the laws are very protective towards LLC ownership. So we have those two entities in the US, and we just analyze your situation and see which one is best for you. Now, in a syndication matter, sometimes the limited partnership is better because the syndicators want to have absolute control through that general partnership interest. So there are benefits to each way to go.
Okay,
Great.
right
And
on.
one quick point that I could make, as being someone whose background was being a builder and finding a deal and bringing on investors, initially my friends and family, a lot of times the investors, the limited partners, believe in the general partner, believe in their skills. And that's why they say, hey, listen, I'll be your investor, you manage the project, and then we'll share with the profit. So there's also that kind of belief that the LPs have to the GP and their expertise and credentials.
Well, and to further on that, August, a lot of people are too busy. They just want to be a limited partner. They don't want to have someone asking them for advice or questioning them on what to do. They want to just be limited. They put their money in and you just send them a check. That's your job.
Right. Now, Garrett, coming from a limited partner's perspective, maybe you can please elaborate on what it means to subscribe to a limited partnership. So the subscription agreement is a well-known document signed by investors to subscribe to a certain investment. So maybe you could explain that in more detail for us, please.
Well, the subscription agreement for me is one of the most important documents for the general partner, right? The subscription agreement says that the limited partner has read the document, understands all the risks, realizes that they could lose everything. And, they're saying that they understand the investment they're getting into. And if something goes wrong later, the general partner wants to have that document so that if the limited partners say that you acted improperly or you were negligent in the investment, the subscription agreement says, look, you understood the risks when you entered into this agreement. And here we have your signature on a document saying that you understood the risks. The subscription agreement for me is a key document for the general partner.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for explaining that. So who owns the asset in a limited partnership? Is it the GP that owns the asset? And please explain what the limited partners who subscribe to the LP own. Do they get to have what I like to say bragging rights that they also own this large asset?
Well, the asset, let's say it's a 100-unit apartment building. The asset, that apartment building, is owned by the limited partnership. So when you go to the county recorder's office and look up who has title to this 100-unit apartment building, it will say XYZ limited partnership. That's who's on title to the property. The general partner has management responsibility, and they typically will own 2%, maybe 10%, could be even 20% of the limited partnership. So you'd have, in a 10% example, you'd have 90% owned by limited partners and 10% owned by the general partner. So the general partner has an interest in the limited partnership. They're owners just as well as the limiteds are, but they have the management control. So that's the difference.
Great.
Okay, fantastic. Now I kind of wanted to talk about LLCs because, funny enough, here in Canada we don't have legal entities such as an LLC. So an LLC kind of seems to be a hybrid of a corporation and a limited partnership. So can you please explain to us what an LLC is?
Well, they started in Germany at the turn of the last century. They're called the GmbH. And they spread throughout Europe. And in the case of the United States, these wildcatters were doing business in Latin America and came across this entity. And they lobbied the Wyoming legislature to allow for LLCs. And it was such a popular entity that within years, a couple of years, all 50 states had LLCs. And it's the most popular entity now. I'd say 90% of all entities now are LLCs. And the advantage is, especially with the good states, is they offer great asset protection. If someone's suing you, you get in a car wreck and someone's suing you and they want to get at your interest in real estate, but the interest is held through an LLC. In Wyoming, Nevada, and Delaware, they can't barge in and force a sale of the real estate. They have to wait for distributions to be made. And that's a pain for attorneys. They don't want to have to monitor distributions. So the LLC offers great asset protection. In the United States, we have various ways you can be taxed. You can be taxed as a C Corp, an S Corp, a disregarded entity, a partnership. With the LLC, you can choose however you want to be taxed. So they have great flexibility in terms of taxation. And that's just the way, since 1977, they have become the most popular entity in the United States for those benefits and others.
Okay. Okay, fantastic. So maybe we can differentiate between the two. Garrett, maybe if you could explain like the difference between a limited partnership and an LLC, please.
Well, again, the main difference is with the LP, you have to have two entities to be fully protected. And with the LLC, you only need one. And the limited partnership is, when you're raising money, the limited partnership can be a great way to go. When you're in family situations, like we mentioned with mom and dad having as little as 2% ownership of the limited partnership, having absolute control, there is an advantage for the LP. So for syndications and for family planning matters, the limited partnership works pretty well. For all other situations, if you're going to buy a duplex in Reno, Nevada, where I am, you would probably use an LLC because you only have to set up one entity. It's not expensive to maintain. You can have it taxed however you want. You can't do that with the limited partnership. So those are some of the advantages that you would see using an LLC.
Great, great.
Okay,
So
great.
he brings it to my next question, Garrett. Let's talk about Corporate Direct, the company you founded. Nowadays, with the world of internet and subscription-based online platforms, you could jump on a website, follow a template, and create a contract to do $1 million a business and transactions in real estate. So it kind of sounds crazy to us, but a lot of people, in fact, do this and create contracts and legal entities and what have you. Could we discuss the important part of as far as what your company provides and the legal protections and that it provides to investors when it comes to this process of the contracts or legal entities and what have you?
Well, you're right, August. There's so many online service providers now. It's scary, and the amount of misinformation that's on the internet is really dangerous almost. We've tested some of these services, the $99 incorporation service that gives you the articles of incorporation, and the second piece of paper is the invoice, and that's all you get. Well, that's not enough to protect yourself. You need more documentation than that. You need an operating agreement. You need minutes of the first meeting. You need membership certificates. So we provide all of that in a flat fee price. We also provide a free 15-minute consultation with one of our incorporating specialists. So you can call up, make an appointment, and discuss to see if we can help you. And our prices are not expensive. I mean, the flat fee for setting up an LLC is $695 plus the state filing fees, and you're getting it all done properly at the start. So, you could get this for $99, but that's not enough. You need all of it to be protected. So I have been doing this for a while. I do deal with a lot of Robert Kiyosaki students, the other Rich Dad Advisors students, and it's been really satisfying. And my son is in his second year of law school at the University of Wyoming Law School, and I think he's going to take over the business. So we're going to keep this thing going for a while.
Amazing, amazing. And just to give a perspective to our viewers from Canada and the US and the price difference. I mean, there's some stats that 40% of all the lawyers in the world are in the US. Some crazy number. Is a very litigious country. But that also creates competition, and the prices are, they're very reasonable. People complain about kind of prices, but the prices you just mentioned are very reasonable. And when you compare those prices for any kind of legal services here in Canada, it just, blows your mind. I mean, for the last 2 years, we've been on this journey of creating CPI and, all the compliant and legal entities, and talking to multiple securities and corporate lawyers. And when we talk to our lawyers in the US, and the prices that we heard from them was shocking to us because again, the competition creates, the prices to be very reasonable. So I just want to kind of bring that point up here.
Well, that's an interesting point. I mean, people complain about attorneys until you need one. But if the prices are better here, I would agree with you. I have clients in Canada, and I was kind of shocked at what they would charge for a limited partnership up there. It was quite expensive.
Yes. I don't know. I wouldn't get into it because I don't want to cause any issues with anybody or anything. But
attorneys' fees and acid reflux, it's all the same.
Right? It's all the same. Exactly. Now, Garrett, I'm really excited to hear your about this and learn more about you. But you've written multiple books. You manage a law firm, and you took the time to be on our podcast today, which we really appreciate that. How do you manage everything? Like, are you a master of delegating? What systems do you put in place? And do you use a particular software to stay organized that maybe you can share?
That's a really good question. And I just think that, first of all, I enjoy writing the books. So, you'll do what you enjoy. And writing the, 10 books in the Rich Dad Advisor series has been just really satisfying. And the same with traveling with Robert and the team around the world. That's enjoyable. We get energy from meeting entrepreneurs from around the world. In terms of, time management, I don't know. I guess due to my parents, I've always kind of been anal about time. So I just try and be timely on everything. So I don't really have a secret for you.
That's great.
Okay, so he's just naturally productive.
He's naturally a superstar. That's awesome. Now, Garrett, you're a Rich Dad advisor. So please talk to us about your connection with Robert Kiyosaki. I know many of the professionals that we talk to tell us that reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad was the impetus for them to leave their career and go on this journey to become a successful entrepreneur. So what was the effect? What effect did the book have on you, number one? And did you ever contemplate leaving your profession as a lawyer to live the Rich Dad, Poor Dad way?
Well, meeting Robert early on and reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it kind of helped me starting to invest in real estate. So like everybody else, I was benefited from reading that book. It's interesting. I get on the phone with clients all the time. We get on the phone for half an hour and talk, and a lot of them have read Rich Dad and have benefited from it as well. So, we all benefit from this. I became acquainted with Rich Dad with Robert Kiyosaki. It's been 20 years now, Ava. Early 2000s, when Rich Dad, Poor Dad first came out, and it was just a sensation. And they were looking for a Nevada attorney. At the time, Nevada was even better than Wyoming. Wyoming, I think, is a little better than Nevada now. But at the time, they were looking for a Nevada attorney. And it was fortunate that I had played rugby. Robert Kiyosaki loves rugby. August, it looks like maybe you played a little rugby in the day.
I played rugby a bit, but when I went to a few practices, I noticed guys having these puncture wounds. I'm like, hey, what was that? Is that a car accident? He's like, no, man, it's just cleats. And I'm like, forget about those.
I have a confession to make. I actually played rugby for several years.
Good.
Yeah.
I could see you as a winger. What position were you?
I was a winger.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
Very athletic.
So yeah, rugby, and Robert and I have been to a few of the World Cup rugby tournaments. We were just in Japan in 2019 for that one. So rugby's been a great connection with Robert. But the whole thing with the Rich Dad Advisors and Robert and the team, and talking to people around the world who have taken what they read in Rich Dad Poor Dad and applied it to their own situation. It's just been fantastic.
Great.
I
Wonderful.
love that it had this trickle effect around the world and changed
Absolutely.
so many lives. Like, what an
Absolutely.
incredible thing that you're part of. That's so, so great, Garrett.
Yes.
Okay, Garrett, time to have some fun.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
We're going to start the next segment of our show, and that is the 10 championship rounds to financial freedom. So we're going to go ahead and get started on our questions, and just whatever comes to your mind first, just fire away. All right, so here we go. Who was the most influential person in your life?
Well, I'd have to say Robert Kiyosaki, just for the last 20 years and his writings. And as we've mentioned earlier, being able to go around and teach with him. So yes, that would be Robert.
Perfect. What is the number one book you recommend?
This one here, Loopholes of Real Estate, my book. No, I would read Rich Dad Poor Dad first, but this one, if you're going to invest in U.S. real estate, this is a great book, Loopholes of Real Estate.
Absolutely. Hopefully when we get to meet, we'll get you to sign a copy for us when we get the chance.
Absolutely.
Now, if you had the opportunity to travel back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
Buy real estate. I didn't buy real estate until I was, in my late 30s. I wish I had bought real estate. When I went to Berkeley, you could get a house for $50,000. I wish I had bought real estate when I was much younger.
What is the best investment you've ever made?
One of the best ones was I went to a tax lien sale, and before they got popular. And I bought this tax lien for $2,000, and they didn't pay their taxes, and so I gained the property, and about 8 years later, I sold it for $95,000. So that was a pretty good return.
Wow!
Fantastic.
40x.
Yeah.
Now, what's the worst investment you've ever made?
Oh gosh. There've been a few. I invested in a entertainment publication one time that didn't pan out. So that would probably be the worst one.
All right. Now, how much would you need in the bank to retire today? What's your number?
I don't have a number because I don't see retiring. I mean, I enjoy working. I suppose I could retire right now if I wanted to. But I don't want to, and I also have to keep going so my son can take this over. That's a couple of years from now.
I love it.
So I'm not retiring anytime soon. Ava, I don't play golf. And so what else would I do with myself?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
do what
that brain work actually creates longevity. There's lots of studies that shows that that
you're not really working anyways, right?
Exactly.
There you go. Now, if you could have dinner with someone dead or alive, who would it be?
George Washington.
If
he was a rebel, and he was a very formal man, but he was also he led the revolution here, and he's just I've read a number of books about him. I would just love to have dinner with him.
That's a great choice. Now, if you weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you be doing now?
I don't know. Let's see. What would I be doing if I didn't get into corporate law? I don't know. Marketing, some sort of marketing, and construction like you did, August, and that kind of thing might have been interesting. So I haven't really thought of that one, Ava.
Okay. Book smarts or street smarts?
I'm sorry, what was it?
Would you choose book smarts or street smarts?
Well, when I was younger, I was always told book smarts, but I think street smarts is more important.
Okay. Last question. If you had $1 million cash and you had to make one investment today, what would it be?
Well, I'm going to do a movie. I'm working on a movie deal. So that's the next investment.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Great.
That's a wrap.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks, Garrett. That was
Hey,
a
we
lot of fun.
really appreciate it. Like I said, I'm a big fan. I've been watching your videos for years and getting education just as such. So we really appreciate you taking the time coming on here. Again, this adds immense value to our viewers and ourselves as well. So I'm sure I'll go back and watch this video at some point again. Thank you for taking the time and joining us today, Garrett.
Yeah, thank
My
you.
pleasure, August, and thank you, Ava.
And we'll include your contact information below this video. Just maybe briefly, you can say how people can get in touch with you if they'd like to, use your services.
Yeah, our main website is corporatedirect.com, and you can sign up for a free 15-minute consultation at that site. We also have a lot of articles and information about real estate investing. So corporatedirect.com would be the place.
Garrett, you're wonderful. Thanks for bringing so much value to so many people around the world.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.